On This Week in Iowa, we sit down with a Republican vying for a seat in Congress. Then, will there be a special session over medical marijuana? Plus, hear Governor Bullock's pitch for president and a discussion about equal pay for women on the campaign trail. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us here on This Week in Iowa. I'm Sabrina Ahmed, and we are starting our show with Republican State Representative Ashley Hinson, who's just announced a run for Congress in the 1st District. Representative Hinson, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me, Sabrina.
So, to get started, give us your 1-minute elevator speech. Why do you want to run for Congress and go up against Abby Finkenauer, who she's a freshman congresswoman?
She is, and you know, I looked at the landscape, obviously, when I was considering a run for Congress. I've been a state representative for, I'm now in my 2nd term. I looked at what I've been able to do here in Iowa and what's happening on the national scale, and I am frankly a little bit concerned about the national scale. I think in Iowa we have a knack for getting along and getting a lot of really good things done for Iowans, and I see that as not happening. I'm concerned there's a lot of chaos. There's quite frankly a lot of dysfunction happening in Washington, and so I want to go and change that, and that's why I've decided to step up and run. I think I bring a lot to the table from not only my experience as a legislator but my experience as a journalist before. Had a lot of challenging stories that I covered, learned a lot about a lot of things. I think that's the great thing about being a journalist. You get to kind of dive in and do quick studies on a lot of different things, much like being a legislator. So I think that I will bring a lot to the table to represent Iowans in D.C.
What specifically would you say Abby Finkenauer is not doing that you believe you would do?
I think that, you know, when you look at the policies that are being proposed in D.C., she hasn't come out and differentiated herself as being different from that pack. I think that's something that, you know, when I look at what's happening in D.C., I think that's part of the issue is we need more people who are going to be able to stand up and say, you know what, I don't disagree with this, I'm not going along with this, and here's why. And I think that's what's wrong with politics right now in general, is this problem with this rhetoric that exists, and it's a culture of dysfunction and you know, the vitriol that exists right now. I think that the existing status quo is feeding into that problem.
What would you specifically, policy-wise, want to do that's not being done?
I think, you know, for me, the immigration issue it's a really important issue. I think in the past 2 weeks since I announced my campaign, I've spent that time, you know, going and visiting with business owners and with constituents in the 1st Congressional District. And I think the biggest thing I'm hearing from people is Iowa has a workforce issue. We need immigrants to be able to help us fill that workforce issue, and we need an immigration policy that works. I just saw some video of a huge stream of immigrants crossing the border illegally just within the past week, and I think there is a real problem at the border, and we need to acknowledge that. We need to have a policy that works and brings the right people into our country, but also set some clear parameters for what's happening with those coming in illegally, too.
So what was your reaction to President Trump announcing a 5% tariff on all goods coming in from Mexico to stop the issue with immigrants flooding into the country? Do you think that once again putting tariffs on things that will fall on the backs of Iowans is the answer?
I don't. I think, you know, tough rhetoric can be helpful from time to time, and I think that we've seen some progress made on trade because of that. I think there is a point when you can be reactionary versus playing the long game, and so I'm not sure if that's the answer in this case. I do think that, you know, we do need to have good trade relations with Mexico and obviously with Canada. We're working on solidifying that agreement, and I think that is the right step. Obviously, you know, Iowa's sensitive to trade issues, and we're currently working out the challenges as a country with China as well. So I think trade relations overall, we need to, you know, really prioritize that, because that's our bottom line economy, that's jobs, and that's ultimately Iowans, helping Iowans and being successful.
Talk to me about fundraising, because obviously there will have to be a lot of money that's put into this race in order for you to be successful. How is that going, and how do you feel in a place that is currently a blue district?
Yeah, it's I would call it a swing district, but I think that, you know, fundraising for me is going well. I look at that as the best opportunity to connect with people and hear what's on their mind. As I'm calling people, and like I said, I've spent the last 2 weeks going around the district meeting with people, trying to make sure I have that support that I need here in Iowa, and I believe I have that, and I think my report this quarter, once we get to the end of the quarter, will show that. But you know, ultimately, that's the best way to have a conversation conversation with people who are connected to get their perspective on what's important right now.
Can you give me an example of one piece of legislation that you passed or that you helped to pass in the state legislature that will then transfer to something that you'd like to focus on a federal level?
I think it comes down to accountability. I just had a bill that I proposed signed into law, actually sets a 30-day reporting requirement for school administrations to actually hold bad actors accountable. Current law, before this bill was signed just a few weeks ago, there was no reporting deadline for those who had an inappropriate relationship with a student, you know, maybe misused school property, falsified grades, or came to work drunk or high. And so what you had in essence were people who were able to skirt the system and maybe jump from district to district. And so my bill, it just found a loophole in law and solved the problem. And that's how I approach legislation and how I plan to work for Iowans in Congress.
Representative Ashley Hinson, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sabrina.
We'll take a short break. We'll be right back.
Local 5 shares the stories.
It's great for our community and great for the kids of Central Iowa
that matter to you.
Please give a warm welcome to Grant Jove.
Watch We Are Iowa team coverage of the Principal Charity Classic all week on all screens.
Tremendous amount of dollars go into the local charities, helping kids. It's fun to be a part of that.
I got this new bike. I'll be able to do a lot more. Really cool.
As we bring you the personal stories behind the tournament.
It's not what we ride that defines us. It's what happens along the way. We may not know where the ride will take us, but one thing's for sure. With the Law Tigers, you never ride alone. If you're injured in a motorcycle accident, call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS, Iowa's motorcycle lawyers.
We want to make one lucky dad very happy this Father's Day. So we're offering a We Are Iowa Father's Day giveaway $500 prize package. To enter, go to weareiowa.com/contest and fill out the online entry form. One winner will receive a $100 gift card to Big Al's Barbecue, a $100 gift card from G&L Clothing, a half-day boat rental at Saylorville Lake Marina, plus a family bowling package at Warrior Lakes. Celebrate Dad by entering today and have a happy Father's Day from We Are Iowa.
You're a big deal to us, so we've got big deals for you. Get more at the Big Deal event back at Men's Warehouse this Memorial Day. Shop our lowest price of the season with 60% off all linen. All dress shirts are 3 for $99.99, plus suits are starting at $199.99. Only at Men's Warehouse.
Kick off this summer with a great deal on some of our most popular vehicles at the Honda Memorial Day sales event. Now it's your chance to get an outstanding vehicle with a great offer. Honda was awarded 2019's Best Overall Brand by KBB.com. Visit your Honda dealer today for a great deal at the Honda Memorial Day sales event.
From the capital city, you're watching This Week in Iowa with Sabrina Ahmed, getting to the heart of what's happening in Iowa politics.
The veto by Governor Reynolds is irrational and lacks compassion for the very patient the program seeks to help. The legislature worked together on a deeply bipartisan plan to make meaningful improvements to the program. Unfortunately, Governor Reynolds failed to do her homework.
And that was State Senator Joe Bolcom from Iowa City speaking to the press this week about his and many other lawmakers' call to come back for a special session to address medical marijuana legislation that the governor vetoed this year. I'm joined now by John Forbes, who is a state representative here out of the Metro. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
You're part of that group of lawmakers who want to ask for a special session, but it requires 2/3 of the legislators to agree to that. So talk to me about why you think a special session is necessary first, please.
Well, first of all, this bill passed both chambers by a vote of 136 to 10. So over 90% of state legislators, both in the House and Senate, voted for this bill. So I think with that overwhelming support and then the governor deciding to veto, I think that warrants at least members of both chambers to take a look at this and possibly come back and override the veto and allow this legislation to progress here in the state of Iowa.
And the Speaker of the House, Linda Upmeyer, has said that she does not think that this is the correct way to do this. She does not believe that a special session is necessary, wants to come back in 2020 and legislate again. What are your thoughts on that? And does that mean that you can't have a special session then?
Well, that pushes us back a full another year. And we've got Iowans right now that are in need of this new dosing formula of cannabis here in the state of Iowa. So if we don't do anything right now, we're not going to be back in town until next January, and then by the time the process gets through, the bill probably wouldn't be signed till the end of March or April. So it's important that we provide this medication to Iowans now instead of waiting almost another year from now.
Okay, so because Speaker of the House Uppmeyer has said that she doesn't believe that a special session is necessary, what's the likelihood of a special session happening?
Well, as you said, it takes 2/3 vote in both chambers. I know in my caucus I have 47 votes right now to bring us back. So I've got to have 20 more Republicans in the Iowa House to sign on to this letter. They're going to be receiving probably the end of this week or early next week. And then if that happens, the Senate, same thing, they have to have 34 members to sign on. Then that will trigger a special session, which will come back to Des Moines for 1 day and debate the bill and hopefully override the veto that the governor did last week.
What's your message to the governor?
Well, I would say that I would hope that she would reconsider. Iowans right now are suffering, and there's a lot of people that need this higher dose medication so they can be more able to treat the medical conditions they're now currently experiencing.
Representative John Forbes, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Short break, everyone. We'll be right back.
Whether you're heading up north or heading out back, Fleet Farm has everything you need. This week, save on things like Berkeley Flicker Shad 3-packs, $8.99. Goodyear tires, buy 3 and get the 4th free. Men's Carhartt Force Performance T-shirts, 25% off our low fleet price. And get a jump start on your Father's Day shopping with Fleet Farm gift cards. Fleet Farm is built for every season. Fleet Farm, built for real life.
It's time to head to the ballpark because the Iowa Cubs have some special recruits. June 5th, meet the Local 5 team and receive a baseball card of your favorite anchor. They're not ball players, but they sure look the part. Join Local 5 Wednesday, June 5th for a noon game at the Iowa Cubs.
He doesn't just admit to beating his girlfriend.
You said you are addicted to abusing Jordan.
When I grew tired of using my hands, I used my feet.
He says he enjoys it.
Tell me why it gets physical.
Maybe it makes me feel better.
I had black eyes. My jaw was broken.
I get tired of her acting like a victim.
You've tried to drown her. You've stabbed her. You've stomped her. How is she not a victim?
Next, Dr. Phil.
Monday at 4 on Local 5.
Pitch Perfect funny man John Michael Higgins brings his game show to Pickler and Ben.
What? Stay for ketchup.
Will Team Pickler or Ben reign supreme?
Measure map. Come on, baby. Yes!
Then start cooking meals in an instant.
The whole bowl goes in there.
This is a lifesaver in the kitchen. That's really good.
Plus, make this the best year to be the best you.
Are you ready? 1, 2, 3.
Your muscles are huge. Monday morning at 9.
On Local 5.
Local 5 is honored to receive 2 Regional Emmy Awards for telling the local stories that matter to you. From the capital city, you're watching This Week in Iowa with Sabrina Ahmed, getting to the heart of what's happening in Iowa politics.
Welcome back. Governor Steve Bullock from Montana wants to be the next president. He made headlines in Iowa as he was endorsed by Attorney General Tom Miller right after he announced his run. I sat down to ask him how he plans to stand out in a field that has more than 24 candidates.
I think I bring something, even in a big field, that no one else has. I'm the only one in the field that actually won in a Trump state when Trump was on the ballot. 2016, he took Montana by 20. I won by 4. And we need to win back some of the places that we've lost if we're going to win in 2020. Also, in a time of great division, my legislature's gone between 60% and 2/3 Republican. I've been able to bring people together to get things done like health care or getting dark money out of our elections, investing in education, freezing college tuition. I think that people want to believe that government can work. I've demonstrated that I can win in those areas and I can govern in those areas.
What do you believe is the answer to this trade war with China? Farmers are the ones who are bearing the brunt of the trade war, but they say that they can see why it's necessary because of all of the intellectual property issues with China, etc. But how does this all get solved without ruining Iowa's economy?
Look, we got to be tough on China. They are taking our tech. They are not opening up their markets, but we can't do it alone. And president's kind of said this America first, but he's made it America alone, meaning we don't work with our allies to open up the markets. And what these tariffs are kind of the blunt instrument that ultimately not only will it hit your producers, if they go up to 25% on China, every American family will pay up to $2,000 a year more for goods. So to step back and work with our allies and our adversaries to open up the markets to China and make sure that free trade actually exists so that we have access to their markets like they have access to ours.
What would you say is your simple answer to gun control?
My simple answer is we have to look at it as a public health issue, not as a political issue. Public health issue would turn around and say, universal background checks, gun owners and non-gun owners agree. Red flag laws, domestic violence, taking away a gun at the time. I mean, a fourth of the times that I've been asked to lower flags by this president and his predecessor have been for mass shootings.
What's your simple answer to criminal justice reform?
Well, we've taken, even with the two-thirds Republican legislature, we passed about 10 different criminal justice bills over the last 2 years. We have to look at sort of tiered sentencing. Like, you don't throw everybody into jail depending on what the sentence is. More oversight when you're out of jail along the way. We've amped up the probation opportunities and training for individuals while they're in jail. Because at the end of the day, like, this is not only a big drain on our society, but the costs are big, and not everybody should be incarcerated.
What about the decriminalization of marijuana?
So I think that it should be done at a state-by-state basis to decide whether you want to legalize, but the federal government has to get out of the way in doing it.
And climate change.
You know, the IPCC internationally have said we have to be completely carbon neutral by 2050. I think we could do it a lot earlier. First, you rejoin Paris. It's going to take all of us in this world to address it. Second of which, you reinstate the CAFE standards. So these are the, you know, when the Trump administration got rid of the fuel efficiency standards, not even the auto companies were asking for that. And then you need both the short term and the longer term of how we're going to be reducing carbon.
What would you say is your stance on abortion?
My whole time as a governor, that this is a woman's decision to make in consultation with her physician, and if she chooses, with her family and her faith. It's not a decision I or other legislators should be making.
What are you doing and what can you do to increase your name recognition and to make yourself more relatable and to Iowans?
Yeah, and first I was so pleased. Attorney General Tom Miller, right when I announced, came out and endorsed me. I served with Tom when I was Attorney General. Think the world of that. And a lot of, to me, how I win in Montana is, look, I don't just go to the pockets of blue. We have the fourth largest state. I travel all across that state. And I think that Iowans want to be able to shake the person's hand, look them in the eye and say, is this someone that's going to be fighting for my best interests? So I hope both a lot of trips to Iowa and the retail side of that, actually getting to meet people, to see that, you know, the values that I've hold in Montana and have been able to win in a state where Trump won, but also govern, aren't that much different than the values that Iowans have.
Does it worry you, though, when you look at these polls and you see Biden, Sanders, Warren right at the top? They have this name recognition that, you know, they've had it for years and years and years and years.
Yeah. I think 4 years ago right now, Scott Walker was polling #1 and Jeb Bush was polling #2. And, you know, one of them didn't even make it to Iowa. The other made it, I think, out 1.5%. So I think there's still a lot of time to get out, to get known, to be able to help folks understand both how I've been able to win and also how I'd govern.
We need to take a short break. Next, we are switching gears and talking about equal pay and its attention on the campaign trail. Stick with us.
We want to make one lucky dad very happy this Father's Day. So we're offering a We Are Iowa Father's Day giveaway $500 prize package. To enter, go to weareiowa.com/contest and fill out the online entry form. One winner will receive a $100 gift card to Big Al's Barbecue, a $100 gift card from G&L Clothing, a half-day boat rental at Saylorville Lake Marina, plus a family bowling package at Warrior Lakes. Celebrate Dad by entering today and have a happy Father's Day from We Are Iowa.
It appears these hot ashes are about to be dumped, which could possibly start a wildfire. How will Smokey deal with such a hot situation? The garden hose defense. Next, a thorough stir. Then another spray. And finally, feeling if the ashes are cool.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, yes, the selfie. A ritual practiced so frequently with this tribe, but not so much by Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
It takes years of hard work to reach an elite level. Every day, practicing and honing skills. In every challenge, staying focused on the goal. For Local 5, it's being the best at telling local stories that matter to you. We're honored to celebrate student athletes on and off of the field. And we're excited for what's to come in the 20th year of Friday Night Blitz here on Local 5. We are Iowa Sports.
I am a nurse,
a firefighter, a college student,
a mother, and I am an American soldier. I will always be ready
for every storm and disaster that threatens my community. I will always be there to protect my neighbors,
my family,
and my country.
We are the Army National Guard.
We are the Army National Guard.
We are the Army National Guard.
Visit nationalguard.com to learn more about part-time service.
You're watching This Week in Iowa, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Iowa.
I'm joined now by Jean Hesburgh, who is the chair of the Iowa Democratic Women's Caucus, discussing the topic of equal pay in the presidential race. So first of all, Jean, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
When we hear equal pay, what do you mean?
We mean women making the same amount of money as their male co-worker for the same work. It's simple as that.
What kind of discrepancy on that issue exists here in Iowa?
There's a huge discrepancy. In Iowa, women on average make 79 cents to the dollar. African-American women make 61 cents to the dollar. Latina makes 56 cents to the dollar. Huge discrepancy, and that amounts to about $8.5 billion lost a year. So really, we're talking about paycheck theft for women. That's companies stealing money out of a woman's paycheck. Now, in the presidential campaign, you'll see that Senator Kamala Harris has introduced the most aggressive paycheck equity plan that we've ever seen in history, and that's the discussion in the presidential caucuses today.
So talk to me about that policy. What does that look like?
Well, it looks like for the first time ever that she is asking companies to bear the burden of making a level playing field. Currently, right now, a woman has to prove that she is being discriminated against. So she has to enter into a long, drawn-out lawsuit and prove that she is not being paid the same as her male counterpart. What Kamala Harris is saying is that, no, the company has to bear that proof. The company has to pay the same as across the board, men and women, and they have to file a certificate with the EEOC that says that they're paying their employees an equal and fair amount.
Why do you think that that is legislation that needs to be put into law instead of just asking companies and talking to them about it and teaching them about the differences and the discrepancies?
Because clearly companies aren't doing it on their own. Because clearly companies are getting away with it. I just said that in Iowa, $8.5 billion of loss out of women's paychecks. In Iowa as well, almost 20% of families are headed by female households. And half of us are $400 away from total devastation, wiped out by maybe a car payment or a health care fiasco. We don't have $400 to lose out of our paycheck. And we're losing it just by a company not paying us the same as our male counterpart. It's just not right, and companies aren't stepping up. So Kamala Harris is saying, I'm going to make the companies step up. We're going to force them through this legislation to step up.
So as you are talking to other people about this, you chair the Iowa Democratic Women's Caucus,
yes.
But do you hear men saying, yeah, I agree, maybe something does need to change?
Not enough, I suppose. If I'm making the paycheck, I don't know why I'd complain about it. Mostly I hear women talking about it.
And what are you hearing from those women? Or do you think they're fed up? Do you think that this is an issue that really is driving them to the polls?
Oh, absolutely. It's an issue, along with a lot of issues. But this is an issue that's driving women to the polls. And I think an aggressive plan like this will absolutely drive women to the polls.
As the chair of the Iowa Democratic Women's Caucus, what other issues are you hearing that are important to women in this presidential election?
Well, health care, of course, reproductive health care. Our bodies and what's happening across the country with reproductive health care is driving women to the polls. Education always drives women to the polls. How we take care of our children and how we pay for that education for our children drives women to the polls. And always pocketbook issues. As I said, in Iowa, 20% of our households are headed by single, female-headed households. So pocketbook issues are always important. How do we take care of our kids?
And how are you ensuring that those issues are at the front of these presidential candidates' minds?
Well, we talk about them a lot. We, at the Women's Caucus, we have a rollout plan to bring four women to the caucuses, bring 4 of your friends to the caucuses, drive voter turnout to the caucuses for women's issues. We promote women's issues on our forum, on our Facebook page. We try and elevate every opportunity to talk about reproductive health and medical issues and education, and just talk to candidates and ask the questions. And I think this is a great conversation to have with Kamala Harris.
Okay, wonderful. Jean Hesenberg, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
so much. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We'll take a short break, everyone, and we'll be right back.
You're a big deal to us, so we've got big deals for you. Get more at the Big Deal event back at Men's Warehouse this Memorial Day. Shop our lowest price of the season with 60% off all linen. All dress shirts are 3 for $99.99, plus suits are starting at $199.99. Only at Men's Warehouse.
Shortly after they tied the knot, Quincy and Audrey discovered their finances were tangled up too. They weren't prepared to buy a home yet and didn't want to just settle as they settled down. Quincy and Audrey turned to American Trust for guidance and walked away with a plan to straighten things out. Now with an American Trust home equity line of credit and mortgage, Quincy, Audrey, and Tank comfortably unwind at home by the river. For advice and support, trust American Trust, because it's all about home.
We're Iowa's most accurate means tracking the storm days in advance.
Tuesday, severe weather likely with hail, wind, flash flooding, and even tornadoes possible. Pinpointing the path and timing on all screens.
If you're wondering if you should hit the roads or not, wait this out until 7:45, 8 o'clock at the earliest.
Tracking the storm, warning you of potential threats.
4 semis all rolled over on I-80 going west. Crews had to shut down parts of the interstate.
At Local 5, being We're Iowa's most accurate means keeping you ahead of the storm.
From the farm towns to the downtowns to the suburbs, a common feeling lives inside of you and me. And no matter where we go, Central Iowa's in our souls, and it's what keeps us connected to this place. And I love living local. It's the only kind of beer I want to breathe. We are Iowa, and it's everything to me.
It's the Doctor's Investigation Show.
Are you tired? Want to lose a few pounds? Is this entire vitamin B12 craze a buzz or a bust?
The Doctor.
Monday at 3 on Local 5.
Have a great Sunday, everyone. We'll see you next week.